Last spring, law enforcement says they had Moody cornered, and that's when he confessed. Moody told police he and his girlfriend, Angel Vause, picked up Brittanee on the Myrtle Beach Strip to party. Moody says Drexel got into the car. He says they drove down to Poleyard Boat Landing south of Georgetown to smoke marijuana. That's also the last place her phone pinged. Vause left the scene, and that's when Moody says he raped and then strangled Brittanee. Moody says he buried Brittanee's body early the next morning. According to the FBI, Moody was very specific about the way they would eventually find Brittanee 13 years later. You found her in one piece.
Yes, yes. And again, consistent with exactly how Mr. Moody said she would be face down, 6 feet in, with her head facing a certain direction, clothless. And
he told you which way her face was?
Absolutely. So when I say we were able to corroborate things like that only he would know as the true person responsible, we believe that to be true.
Those very specific and disturbing details led law enforcement to find Brittanee and her killer. But questions remain about what Moody has been up to for the past 13 years. Remember, Moody had a track record. He'd already served 21 years of a 40-year prison sentence for kidnapping and raping an 8-year-old.
When I found out that she went missing, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to... I just felt numb. I don't wish that for anybody, not even people in prison, to lose their child. I love them, but I mean, I'm gonna be her adopted dad, but I loved her.
Brittanee Drexel's parents received a slither of justice today. Ray Moody was sentenced to life in prison for Drexel's kidnapping, rape, and murder. The final result in a 13-year-long search for answers. Our Katie Salt and Carla Rogner were in Georgetown today as the sentencing unfolded.
Thank you, Tessa. And Carla, we heard a lot from Chad, Dawn, Camden, so many members of Brittanee's family today, but you actually got the chance to catch up with Chad and Brittanee's brother, Camden, after the sentencing. What did they tell you that they did not reveal in court?
Yeah, Chad is Brittanee's adopted father and Camden is her little brother. And they did seem really relieved after court today. Now that they finally have some closure, they told me they're really looking forward to kind of moving on now that this process is over and focus on healing and grieving Brittanee.
Well, and Camden, we have to remember, was young, very young when Brittanee was kidnapped and murdered. How old was he, and really how was he trying to move forward as the young adult that he is now?
Yeah, he was just 6 years old when Brittanee disappeared, and today he was actually wearing a necklace with some of her ashes in it, and he said he really does feel inspired by Brittanee and feels like she really did make a big impact on his life. He's actually going to school now in Savannah, Georgia, and he said he feels really inspired to keep living his life and achieving things and doing it for Brittanee.
Well, and I know a couple months ago we heard talks of a vigil or memorial in the Myrtle Beach area for Brittanee, but did Chad or Camden say if they would ever come back given what unfolded in this low country?
Yeah, I actually asked Chad about that, and he seemed unsure. He said he really doesn't have any reason to come back here. There is a tree. Chad lives up in Rochester, New York. That's where Brittanee was from, and they do have a tree up there memorializing her, and he said they do plan to continue going back there every year in her honor.
And another thing, we've heard rumblings through the family attorney that Dawn, in fact, wanted to talk to Moody before he went away to prison. Did Chad share that same sentiment, or is he done with everything altogether?
Yeah, Chad actually didn't even use Moody's name. He said he's not worth his time. He referred to him as the defendant, and he's just really looking forward to, I understand, moving on.
Carla, thank you so much for everything. And Brittanee's family, again, hearing from Raymond Moody for the first time today, 13 years after Brittanee went missing, and it was that moment that they waited 13 years for.
I was a monster. I was a monster then, and I was a monster when I took Brittanee Drexel's life.
Moody at one point acknowledging his criminal history and his initial jail sentence from the 1980s, one he only served half of.
And I was sentenced to 4 years and 4 months
And I did 20 years and 8 months, and I thought that was enough, but it wasn't.
He was visibly emotional most of the morning.
You have no power over me or my family. Forgiveness is not part of this narrative today.
At times crying and wincing as Brittanee's family spoke.
She taught me how to become a bright, warm-hearted woman and how to face the trials and tributes I could possibly face.
Then crying during his own statement.
I don't have the words to express how horrible I feel, and I've felt ever since that day.
As he listened to the judge.
And I hate it for this family and all the years they've gone through, not knowing what happened to their loved one.
And learned his fate.
The sentence of the court is you committed to the State Department of Corrections for the term of your natural life.
Moody could only agree and say what little he could.
I'm very, very sorry.
Solicitor Jimmy Richardson was asked if he believed Moody's remorse, and he said he feels that Moody is only remorseful because he got caught. And Tessa, I want to send it back to you. And one other thing we learned today is if Moody had other victims in this area.
Thank you, Katie. And after Moody was named a person of interest, there has been a lot of discussion around whether Drexel was the only victim. We asked the Georgetown County Sheriff if there were any leads that Moody could have been involved in any other abductions or disappearances.
Obviously, that's in the forefront of our mind. It has been ever since May 5th. It continues to be. We are going through the processes now to just simply even check that immediate area. But right now we have absolutely no credible information that there are any other victims in Georgetown County at this time.
The solicitor says they plan to continue conversations with Moody once he is in the prison system. Meanwhile, the solicitor and the sheriff were also asked about Moody's health. He walked into court today using a crutch. Officials also asked if Moody may be battling something more serious, perhaps a potential diagnosis that may have led to his guilty plea.
Again, that is a medical diagnosis that we would not obviously disclose here today.